Is it gonna fit? Moment of truth.
The final piece.
Oh man. Oh, just kidding.
You're mean.
I'm like Phil. Yay! Yeah! Nailed it.
We spent the past summer in Utah doing a lot of exploring, and part of the way we did that was we left the Airstream at a campground and we used our tow vehicle. It's a 2022 Chevy Express 3500, so it's a 1-ton commercial cargo van. We use that as our weekend getaway vehicle and essentially car camped all over Utah with it.
One of the reasons we wanted the cargo van to tow the Airstream was because we're still true van lifers at heart, and we knew that we wanted that adventure mobile to go off on weekends, places that the Airstream couldn't go. But what we wanted to do was kind of spend some time in it first before we figured out what kind of build we may or may not want to do with the cargo van. And this summer in Utah really taught us a lot about what we could and could not get away with in terms of the space and the constraints and the equipment that we already had in the van.
And we did a video about using sort of van life, right? Using this cargo van as our car camping vehicle for the weekends. I'll put a link to that video below. If you haven't seen that, check it out. It talks about the equipment that we have, how we had the van set up. And like you said, we did it all summer, and I think we learned a lot on what works and what doesn't. And so when we came back to Michigan to our Sticks and Bricks for the holidays, we decided, okay, let's do a small build in the van and just tweak it enough that it takes care of a few of the things that we were running into.
One of the biggest things we learned throughout our summer was that we had taken a mattress that we already had and we're just essentially putting it on the floor of the van on our weekends. But what was happening was that it was taking up the entire floor space. When we jump in and out of the van, that mattress was always in the way, the sheets and the pillows were in the way, we were getting sand and mud and all sorts of things everywhere, and we just didn't have any floor space at that point. We totally lost our floor space with the bed. So we knew that that was going to be high on our priority list when we decided to do some sort of build out to get the bed up a little bit so that we still had room for shoes and stuff and in just move aroundable space.
Well, and part of the reason we did a cargo van as a tow vehicle is you got used to when we had the road trek, our Class B, of just jumping into the van to change clothes in a parking lot. And you wanted to continue to be able to do that. And that's hard when you're standing on the mattress, trying not to get the bed dirty. And we already knew that the back of the van had two key components that we carry, because remember also, this is not just our tow vehicle or a getaway vehicle, but it's also our cargo vehicle. So we carry things in here for the Airstream, we carry things in here just for day-to-day life, recoveries, all kinds of things that we might need. And so two key large items, and they always tell you when you're planning something, you put the big rocks in first, right? If you've heard that strategy. And two of the big rocks are the generator that we carry in the back of the van because there's nowhere to put it in the Airstream. And also we use it when we're out on the weekends, sometimes away from power. And then also our powered Dometic cooler, which we've loved, but it does take up space and we needed some way to deal with that. Because those are at the back of the van, that's two big chunks of floor space that are taken up. And we kind of lost the storage space above them because you can't really put much on top of the generator. It's just not flat enough. And the Dometic, you can only store things that like food or stuff that you're going to get to regularly because you have to be able to open the Dometic to get to the other food.
So yeah, we always felt like we lost a lot of space. Like we lost like the top half of the van because there aren't any shelves or anything. So we spent all summer kind of mentally figuring out what might work where, came home, talked to a couple friends about what they thought might work, people that know what they're doing when it comes to woodworking and engineering and building, not necessarily our forte. We just kind of had the design in mind of what we wanted as an end product, but worked with a couple people to try to figure out how to actually put it into reality so that we could have still a cargo van, still a garage, but still a weekend vehicle in the process, or weekend getaway vehicle.
Sure, and so essentially what we did was we built around the two big rocks. We built around the generator and the Dometic, which we discovered are almost the same size. The generators are a little bit smaller, but they're almost the same height, they're almost the same length, so that worked out perfectly. And we essentially built a frame around those and then put a platform above them, so that's where our bed goes. And so now we have this we have this platform for our bed, and underneath it is the storage area where right here is where the generator is going to go when I'm done doing some maintenance on it. And then we have the Dometic powered cooler over on this side. One thing that we had to deal with was, if you're putting a platform over the Dometic and the Dometic opens up, how do you get to your food? Well, Dometic makes a slide, and I know people have built slides. It's just not our strength, and it wasn't worth the time, the energy, the effort to try to do that and make sure it was going to work right. So we bought the Dometic slide that they build for this, and so this whole unit just slides right out of the back of the van, as Jesse is demonstrating. And it slides all the way out beyond this platform, and so it opens up completely. It works really, really well, and we're hoping, we haven't used this setup yet, but we're hoping it will continue to work as well as we think it does.
It's a little chilly in Michigan right now to test this out as like overnight camping, but as soon as we go south, we're all over this.
Yeah, it was 22 last night here, so we are not doing our outdoor camping right now in Michigan. And I need to fix that squeak. I don't know what that sounded like on camera, but for some reason this squeaks when you push it back in. You need to spray that with something. So that was the two big rocks, was the generator and the Dometic powered cooler, and then we needed to deal with the mattress. So we put the frame up here for that, or the platform, and that's where we're gonna have it. We are repurposing the mattress. We talked about in that original video, don't let equipment get in your way necessarily, and meaning you don't have to have everything perfect. What do you already have on hand that you could repurpose from something else? We're continuing to do that even with this little bit of a build. This platform will hold a bigger mattress than the one we have. We may get a bigger mattress at some point,
We're gonna get a bigger mattress.
Okay, apparently we are getting a bigger mattress at some point, a little bit wider.
I don't know when.
But the point is, that mattress fits up here fine, it works, it'll get us through until we're ready to buy whatever we want, or when we find the right thing, we have time to wait for it. So don't let that kind of stuff delay your trip, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, and yeah, I think it's just because this mattress, the mattress was perfect when it was on the floor, and it was the only mattress that would fit in the floor space we had. But we knew we wanted to go a little bigger. The other thing that we're repurposing is our old bedding set from the road trek, which was, it's essentially like a double-sized sleeping bag that has a cold and a hot side. I don't remember exactly how they phrase it, but essentially it's like when it's cold outside, you flip it one way, and if it's hot outside, you flip it the other way. And so we're repurposing that in here to give us like a real nice bedding set, which we didn't have before because when we were just doing the weekend van, we just had a couple sheets and blankets. So this is gonna work so much better. And so yeah, it's repurposing those things that we already had so that we didn't have to go out and buy anything new because we didn't want this to be a big build. We just wanted to kind of spruce things up a bit.
And I shot some video to show you what this looks like when the bed is laid out on the platform. It's not here right now, and that's one of the advantages of this mattress that we have and the bedding set is it all rolls up. So it's rolled up, tucked out of the way, so we have an empty platform here for storage, for carrying stuff. Remember, this is still a cargo van, a daily driver, so if we need to put something back here, we can. If we have suitcases when we're traveling, you know, we can always put them up there. Whatever we're doing, that's available. And I think a key thing about this build too was we talked to our friend Alicia. We'll give her a huge shout out on the channel because she did most of the work on this for us, having the equipment and the knowledge of how to do this woodworking. And what we told her was we didn't want it to be a permanent installation because you never know what we're going to do with this van. There might be a time when you need to do something where you need to use it for moving or doing something. Yep. So this is removable. It's not a quick out and in, but it's, you know, the way we did the screws, we did pocket screws so we could get to the screws from above instead of just below. And I think it's going to work well. If we need to remove it, it can be done.
It's sturdy, and that was the biggest thing that we needed. So while it is removable, we made sure that first and foremost, it wasn't gonna rattle and creak and bounce and fall apart when we went down the road, which is probably what would have happened if just the two of us had built this. So kudos to Alicia for knowing how to make this all happen, and I learned how to drill pocket screws, so that was a bonus. Pocket screw! A few minor modifications had to be made along the way, which is every build project has those things. But I think that, yeah, we're super excited about this and what it's going to do differently for us when we travel now.
So for some of the basics, if you want to know what we used and how we did this, and maybe I'll put a list of our equipment or our supplies in the description below, so if you decide you want to do something like this, you can do it. But essentially it's just 2 4x8 sheets of sanded plywood. And the reason we did 2 is we have one on the floor, and that's our base. And it's because we have the slide for the Dometic cooler, and it has to attach to something. now Dometic sells it as if you would attach it to your vehicle. We didn't want to drill extra holes in the floor of the van and open that up to rust and exposure, whatever else. And again, we didn't want to make anything too permanent. So we put that plywood sheet in on the bottom as our base, and that's what the slide and things are attached to. And then everything else is built up from that. So you have the two 4x8 sheets, and then we simply use 2x3 boards cut into shape, and we actually had to shape the bottom and the top, actually, the platforms around the wheel wells, and that's where Alicia and her skills and her tools came in really handy. And then we kind of just screwed it all together, tightened it all up, and it sounds a lot easier than it was. We originally thought, she came over, we were going to do it in a day, about, you know, an afternoon and an evening kind of thing. We almost got it done.
We almost got it done. We having to remember that the days are shorter now because, well, we're not in daylight savings anymore, so it gets dark and cold quick, and we were essentially doing this outside. But I think, you know, we got started shortly after noon, and we wrapped up probably around 7, 8 o'clock at night with a little bit of a break in the middle, you know, to grab some food and stuff. And then you did a few minor tweaks the next day just to make sure you screwed everything down tight and that it wasn't going anywhere. But I mean, it was a day project. You'd gotten all the supplies ahead of time, so we were ready to go.
Yeah, it was pretty much done when I got out here the next morning.
Yeah.
Essentially, I had to go in and put all the finals, so I pre-drilled and then did all the screws to do the final attachments to make sure everything was nice and tight, and then I had to clean up. the sawdust and the bits of wood.
I think that was as much of work as the build project.
That was a project in and of itself.
Just like we did this summer, we want to use it in this configuration for a while before we decide anything else. Maybe we want shelves, maybe we don't know what we want, maybe nothing. But until we use it in this configuration for a while, we're not going to know if we need anything else. We talked about a number of different designs originally when we built this, and this is what we settled on, and so now we have to figure it out. And you know, we kind of joke about whether I'm changing clothes or not, or using our little toilet that we carry with us. But we've had a couple times when we've been out camping where the weather's turned bad, where we've had lots of bugs or rain. And so now we have floor space inside where we could set up a couple camp chairs. We could eat in there. We could just hang out in there and play games on the floor. And so this is just going to give us so many more opportunities and options of things that we can do in this configuration. But we're going to use it like this for a while, and then we'll get back to you and let you know if it's working or if we need to make other changes.
And I think that's a key thing that we've said before. I'm going to always say it to people is take what you have and get out there and try it. See what works for you. See what doesn't. See what would be nice to have. See what you really need or don't need. Don't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect supply list. Just take what you have, get going, and experience this beautiful world that we live in. In the meantime, keep on trekking.
And we'll see you out there. One of the reasons we bought this...
Sorry, one of the reasons.
Yeah. I had to get my hands in my pockets so I could talk with them.